I mounted a 6-inch caliper, more or less, modified, onto my cross slide. I didn't want to drill into the cross slide. I didn't want to interfere with the chuck. I didn't want to interfere with the tailstock. So this is the solution I've come up with so far. As you can see, I can bring the tailstock right into position without any interference. I have almost the full travel. I only have 6 inches, obviously, and I believe it's a 6.5 inch travel, but I don't need that extra little bit because the tool post I use comes into play long before I reach the outer limits. So that's not an issue. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just a cheap scale. It works well enough. It's very repeatable. I've tested it out several times and it always comes back to the same position when it's at the hard stop. It's not as accurate as glass scales, 5 micron or, well, obviously the 1 micron, but I don't think it's too bad. It's better than what was there before anyways. It agrees with the dials, and of course you don't have to worry about backlash. And this is what I have for the longitudinal feed. It's 12 inches. Again, it doesn't obviously cope with the full travel, but you know, within 12 inches I usually do all my work anyways, so it's pretty good. Anyways, just the parts here. We have a couple of brackets. The bracket on this side mounts to there's a screw that goes down into the cross slide nut that you take off, obviously, when you use the taper attachment, etc. Anyways, this comes down through that into it. So, and I put it on an arm so that you can fine tune it to get to the slide parallel to the cross slide. And on this end, I machined a little standoff. It threads into one of these holes for the follow rest, and of course I cut off the bits that come out on either end of here. I don't recommend actually doing it with a bandsaw. I would because I tried and I was able to do it, but it was very slow and it's very hard metal, so I'm pretty sure I toasted my blade. So use an abrasive wheel on a Dremel. That seems to work quite well, as long as you're careful and hold everything really steady. And for the holes I used a carbide bit. I'm using these particular screws, which are 3mm. Is that right? 4mm screws. No, they're 3mm. But that's only because that's as big as I could get to fit through the hole. If I had a bigger hole, I would have gone for probably number 632 or number 832 screws, or a metric equivalent. But it works quite well. It's very sturdy. I opted to go this way instead of magnets because all the swerf rather material coming off is in this area, and if it was magnet, it would just accumulate there and possibly interfere with the work you're doing. In any event, it would be very messy. So that's the reason I went for that. This I don't worry so much because it's quite a bit further removed, although, you know, I do occasionally get swerf on these as well. But these are relatively weak magnets. They're old Eclipse magnets, actually. So removing the swerf is not a big deal, and you know, you can't get any swerf trapped in between the poles and the magnet because it's all filled in with aluminum. And also the reason I chose magnets is so that if you crash into it, it just slides back and it doesn't hurt anything. You could go for a clamp on the side here, and I had considered that, and also at some point I may take this brass plate here that holds the felts off and replace it with a larger plate that comes up, and then I could secure that end at least and leave that end floating, or vice versa. Also, a later consideration is perhaps moving this further in this way and mounting this onto the taper attachment drag link, for lack of a better word. Anyways, that is the evolution of the poor man's DRO at this point. I hope this helps with your lathe. I did this. This is obviously a standard modern. Maybe not obvious, but that's what it is. It's a standard modern Utilathe. It's a 10-inch lathe. Anyways, the particular apron assembly on it kind of makes it hard to really put a scale in without sacrificing something. If I put a scale here, I cover the oiler, the carriage lock, and the oiler on the back here, and also I interfere with the follower rest. All of these things are not desirable. If I put it on this side, then I run the danger of destroying the scale when I, if I were to hit the chuck. And also it's where the terrible nasties happen all the time. That's where all the swarth is. If it was a very thin scale, that would be good. Or if I could get it just sit down just below there, that would be great as well.